We are talking about a truck that had to cover the entire 8,500 kilometers. But the problem was not only how to make such a long journey, but the real problem was that a huge ice block was kept in this truck, which had to be passed through the hottest desert of Africa safely, which means that a desert which can melt the iron through its scorching heat. This truck had to pass 10 days in that desert. But the challenge was that the ice block should not melt in any condition, and that too without a refrigerator. This is the story of 1959, when the attention of the whole world was surrounded by one ice block. This ice block was 3,050 kilograms heavy, and it had to be delivered from one corner of the world to the other, and that too without refrigeration. Which means its starting point was Norway's city Mo i Rana, and ending point was Libreville, which is the capital and largest city of Gabon in Central Africa. But why was it being taken so far? Actually, this matter started a year ago, that is in 1958. There is a country in Europe, Luxembourg, from which a very famous radio station was operated. This broadcast was spread all over the world by the name of Radio Luxembourg. A unique challenge was held by this radio station all over the world to all the listeners, and that was that if any man delivers the 3-ton heavy ice block from Arctic region to Africa, he would get a hefty prize money. It was decided by the Radio Luxembourg that 100,000 francs will be given in exchange of every kilogram of ice, which is $16,000 in today's time. $16,000 of each kg. That is $48 million of this ice block weighing 3 tons, which is really a huge amount. But there are some rules of this challenge. The first rule was that this ice block is to be transported in one piece. Second rule was that it would only be transported by road. And the third and the hardest rule was that the refrigerator could not be used to complete the challenge. Radio Luxembourg kept such a huge prize because they knew very well that it was not possible to bring such a huge ice block from Arctic region to Africa, because it was not a short trip but a full trip. It is around 8,500 kilometers long, of which 2,500 kilometers is the part of the African desert where the temperature is 50 degrees centigrade. That is, the ice that melts in minutes as soon as it comes out of the freezer. How it will reach the destination safely in this such a long journey. Radio Luxembourg had given this challenge, but they did not even know what trouble it would trap them in. For several months after this challenge was broadcast on the radio, no one dared to move forward. But then a man named Birger Natvik announced that he was ready to accept the challenge. Birger Natvik, who is the managing director of Glassvat, an insulation company in Norway, believed that this challenge could be easily met by using the insulation material that his company made. If Birger Natvik succeeds in this challenge, he will be able to make enough money for his company Glassvat and his employees. This had spread all around the world that one man has accepted Radio Luxembourg's ice block challenge. To do the job, Natvik formed a team to meet the challenge, which led to newspaper headlines. When the Radio Luxembourg became known about the efforts had been made to accomplish the ice block challenge, they began to fear of losing a huge sum of money. And out of fear, they withdrew their offer, because Glassvat company and its directors had become very famous. So despite ending up the offer of Radio Luxembourg, Natvik had decided to take on the challenge. He believed that even if he did not get the money, he would fulfill it. Because of this, the publicity of his company would increase. The time had come to start the challenge. It had been decided that ice block would be sent all the way from Norway's city Mo i Rana to Gabon's city Libreville in Africa. After Denmark, Netherlands, Belgium, France, Spain, Morocco, ice block will be brought to the Republic of Gabon after passing through the Algerian desert. Natvik's team included an engineer, 4 drivers, a mechanic, and 2 cameramen. They decided to cut 3-ton heavy ice block from the glacier, but it was quite difficult to lift such a large ice block at once. So the 200 kilograms blocks were cut out, sent down through the helicopter. Natvik's efforts were getting enough media attention, and that's why many companies started sponsoring to fulfill this challenge. Shell took the responsibility of fuel and Scania provided them a truck in which this ice block was supposed to be placed. 200 kg blocks were brought down from the glacier and refrozen again, and a single block of 3,050 kilograms was made. This block was put into a special container and its sides were insulated with a special material after that it was loaded on the truck. This unique journey was started on the 22nd of February 1959. The initial journey was much easier because the weather in these areas was quite pleasant, and the roads were also in good condition because this news had spread all over the world. As the truck and its crew passed through the cities, the people there welcomed them and cheered them on as they traveled. As their journey progressed, their publicity increased. When this truck was passing through the city of Paris, the police issued special protocols for passing through congested areas. The crew members were also invited to dine with the mayor. A week had passed since the journey started. On reaching the Marseille, the truck was lifted aboard the freighter with the help of a crane, because now they had to cross a huge part of the sea. On reaching the other side of the ocean, the conditions were completely different. The truck had now arrived on African soil, where the heat was very intense during the daytime. Not only was the ice block at risk of melting, but the truck's engine was also at risk of overheating. There was also a fear of deterioration of the condition of the crew members. Apart from all these dangers, the truck also had a security threat because there was a war going on in the area through which those people were passing, and the freedom fighters were hiding in the mountains. They could even make truck and its crew a hostage to get their point across. To deal with this threat, for the first part of the desert, the expedition was accompanied by the French Foreign Legion. The instruction the men received was no stops, drive for your lives, even if you get a flat tire, as there were no roads in that desert. So the truck got stuck in the sand again and again. The faster they were to reach the destination, the more difficulties were coming their way. Every time the truck got stuck, it took hours to get it out of the sand. The mission of transporting the world's most expensive ice block had fallen on them. On one hand, there was fear of the freedom fighters, and on the other hand, the intense heat spoiled their condition and had also started melting the ice block in the truck. If the crew were stuck here, their mission would not be accomplished, nor would they be able to save the ice extracted thousands of miles away. They also watered the animals of travelers passing through the desert with water from melting snow, which was actually the most expensive water in the world. They spent many nights on the sand in sleeping bags, and gradually they managed to leave the hurdles behind and move towards their destination. Finally, they managed to leave this desert behind. After a journey of 27 days, the truck, crew and the remaining ice block managed to reach Libreville. They were given a warm welcome on their arrival at Libreville, but everyone had to know only one thing. After traveling and going through the toughest conditions, how much ice was left in the container. Amazingly, when the trunk lid was opened, it was hard to believe what was inside. The weight of ice block when it left Norway was 3,050 kilograms, and after the arduous journey of 27 days, it was amazingly weighed 2,714 kilograms, only 11% ice, which means only 336 kilograms had melted on the way, and the rest ice block was in one piece. Although the Radio Luxembourg had withdrawn from its offer, the expedition had been an enormous success. The ice was cut up and divided between the citizens of Libreville, for whom this was a rare commodity. Natvik nor his company got any cash reward at that time, but this challenge boosted his company's sales. Glasvet is still making isolation material by the name of Glava, and since 1959 their popularity has been increasing.